wanna bet that I can get you back inside your head before the summer ends, and spread a little love. Just for a little fun, I'll make you come back to me before the rise of every sun. Baby, it's meant to be, I know you got a man, but he don't understand. You're gonna be a heartbreaker, you're such a love taker. So just suck me in and you can toss me like a cigarette, 'cause I just wanna be a bad habit, yeah. Rhythm in our love, it's impressive, excessive. You can't make this stuff up. My chest beats, it's restless, wakes the neighbors up above. Yeah, baby, come and show me love. Baby, come and show me love, because you're gonna be a heartbreaker. You're such a love taker. So just suck me in and you can toss me like a cigarette, 'cause I just wanna be a bad habit, yeah.
We can get on a plane and take a one-way ride, steal us away to find a place we can hide. It wouldn't take much to disappear overnight, just to give into the need and leave it all behind.
'Cause I know that you know that I know that you want me. You told me, now show me, come blow me away. 'Cause I know that you know that I know that you want me. You told me, now show me, come blow me away. You're gonna be a heartbreaker. You're such a love taker. So just suck me in and you can toss me like a cigarette, 'cause I just wanna be a bad habit, yeah. You're gonna be a heartbreaker. You're such a love taker. So just suck me in and you can toss me like a cigarette, 'cause I just wanna be a bad habit, yeah. Suck me in and you can toss me like a cigarette, 'cause I just wanna be a bad habit, yeah.
Wow, that was loud. My God, that was loud. I hope that wasn't blasting your ears, because that was killing me. Yesterday, everybody said the audio was a little bit low, so I think I turned it up a little bit too much. All right, thanks for watching Inside the Numbers with the People's Pundit, and I am your host, Rich Barris, the People's Pundit. We're going to talk about a couple things today that were on PPD yesterday, but I want to recap them because they're important. And then at 11 o'clock today, or actually now, I believe it starts now. If not, it starts in an hour from now. But House Democrats will be holding hearings. We've never had anything like this happen before in our country on their effort to push out One America News, Newsmax, and of course, ultimately Fox News, right? And we've never had anything like this before. Never before. And this is this perfect example of this new breed of fascism. It is fascism. Where in America, they don't have to rely on government force and coercion because everybody agrees, right? So the entertainment industry, the media industry, even finance, you name it, most of corporate America, they're all group thinkers. So in the past, in 20th century fascism, the governments would have to rely on power, police power, the state, the power of the state, to force private companies to act at the behest or in the interest of the state. Here, they don't have to do that because they're all some weird hive mind, right? We've talked about this before. This is for show. This is to test the water. They are deadly, deadly serious. They want One America gone. They want Newsmax gone. And even Fox News, who kissed their butt with the exception of Tucker Carlson, even Fox News, who kissed their butt for 4 years, is a target. They badly wanted that DNC debate money. They did everything to please these people. They called the 2018 House way too early. control of the House of Representatives way too early. Based on data they keep touting, we now know, again, the voter analysis is not much better than exit polling. That was a fraud. It needed to be Fox News, folks. It needed to be Fox News for that call to have the credibility that the media needed it to have. And of course, rewind the clock, 18, what was that? That was their grand plan to impeach and remove Donald Trump. But they needed the House and actually needed the Senate to do it. What they didn't count on was Donald Trump campaigning all over the country and single-handedly saving the Republican Senate for the National Republican Senatorial Committee, who would have lost it without him. All right? So they want them gone because this is about conforming to thought. They don't care about dangerous misinformation. CNN is the biggest, and really, I can't just pick on CNN. The New York Times wants the gold standard, the old gray lady. The Washington Post, The Guardian, MSNBC, NBC, ABC, CBS. They all, and 50% of Fox News, 75% probably when it comes to the Russia collusion hoax. These people have been living off of misinformation for years and in fact for decades to promote the power of one party or one group of people, a political class. I want to read this quote from Tucker Carlson because fighting back against CNN, who is a big supporter of this censorship move. All right? Fighting back, he said this, and listen carefully, it's 100% correct. Because this has been their business model for decades. Guys, Tawana Brawley. If it wasn't for Fox News, you would have still believed that Tawana Brawley was raped by members of Duke Lacrosse, right? And those boys' lives would have been ruined. You would have believed this. You'd still believe Michael Brown said, hands up, don't shoot. I put my hands in the air, don't shoot, don't shoot. You would believe all of this. This is what Tucker said, and then we're going to talk about some of the unfortunate results of their misinformation. Quote, it takes a sophisticated operator to lie this effectively, to take the central problem of American life, which is the agonizing death of our middle class, and cover it with a smokescreen of manufactured race hatred so that no one even realizes it's happening. You'd really need to be, as CNN would put it, a disinformation network to pull that off. And of course, the irony is CNN itself has become a disinformation network, more powerful than QAnon and far more destructive, unquote. There is without a doubt a longer reach of corporate legacy media, corporate big media, whatever you want to call it, legacy media. Don't call them mainstream media because they are not mainstream. There's nothing mainstream about them. As a pollster, most of the country still believes generally what the Republican Party used to stand for. They are just terribly handicapped in getting that message out, which is my point. Who has a longer reach? Corporate big media or the 4chan boards on QAnon? Who is more influential to political discourse? What the average person hears and sees? QAnon, some 4chan board? Or primetime CNN, the front page on Sunday morning of the Wall Street Journal, the New York Times? The Sunday talk shows that go on at NBC, MSNBC, CNN, ABC, CBS? The answer is obvious. The answer is obvious. So, I don't like QAnon. You all know that. I think you wasted your time and your money if you believed any of that garbage. It's BS. But that's not the point. Who is more dangerous? QAnon or CNN? Who is more dangerous? CNN pushed a fake, what they knew to be fake too. This is the worst part about it. Understand, everybody knew that Russia collusion was bull. Everybody knew it was a lie, including the people. This is why Fox News doesn't deserve your viewership if you're a Republican or you're a Trump supporter, outside of Tucker. Anytime I criticize Fox News, unless I specifically reference Tucker, I am excluding Tucker. But I am including everybody else in primetime. I am definitely including everybody knew. And Britt, you know it. Everybody knew that this was a fake story. Worse, it was disinformation. They all knew it. So what's worse? QAnon, which is a fake intel, guy with some crazy clearance, right? Or actual people, real people with security clearances who engage in the art of information warfare for a living, supplying our media companies with fake stories to usurp a duly elected president. James Hodgkinson fully believed that psyop. He fully believed that fake conspiracy theory. So much so, he thought Donald Trump was a traitor who colluded with Vladimir Putin and that it was his duty to fight back against this treachery. And one of the last things he put on Facebook was how it was time to act to remove the traitor. And we put all of that up before Facebook swooped in and deleted his page. So James Hodgkinson saw the Republican Party as collaborators, enablers of this treason. And he also was deeply, deeply worried that the repeal of Obamacare was going to lead to, like Elizabeth Warren told him, the death of millions of Americans. Which CNN, MSNBC, NBC, ABC, CBS, and 75% of Fox News echoed incessantly until he got in his vehicle and drove to the baseball field where they were practicing for a charitable congressional baseball game and shot the House Majority Whip in the U.S. House of Representatives, along with 4 others, including those tasked to protect him.
But that's okay.
So who is more dangerous? QAnon or CNN? They don't give a rat's butt about disinformation. They are disinformation. That is their business model. And for the first time in our history, we're going to have seriously a congressional hearing that pushes anti-free speech, anti-press freedoms, and anti-Americanism right in the chamber. By the way, rewind over the last 4 years in your mind and think about how many times you heard about what a threat Donald Trump was to the freedom of the press. Reuters, that tool. I will never forget this interview. He's a White House press corps. I can forget his name. I'll find. Going on Fox News about how dangerous Donald Trump could be. Yet none of them said a damn word when Julian Assange leaked. It was more than footage, documents. They murdered one of your journalists and then lied about it. The U.S. military killed one of your journalists and then lied about it. Doesn't anybody give a damn? No, it was Barack Obama. So we're just quiet. We're going to pressure cable providers to remove people who don't report the world, the news in the world the way they see it. We're going to remove them. The diversity of opinions, the diversity of thought. So what will be left is this alternative reality where Donald Trump colluded with Vladimir Putin to steal the 2016 U.S. election. That's what we'll be left with. And nobody to push back on it. Because MSNBC, which, I mean, if you grew up when I grew up, and you saw actually the development of MSNBC, you'd be shocked. You'd be shocked that they became a mouthpiece for former national security and intelligence community, deep state hacks, who lied to the American people with ease for a living. That's all you'll be left with CNN to reinforce it. It's incredible. It's incredible. And by the way, they won't stop there. They won't. After the 2016 election, we used to get, I don't know, we could publish an article on the jobs report. All right, and it's a data journalism site. It's not exactly, the Daily Beast or BuzzFeed. we would post something on the jobs report before the 2016 election. And being a Google News partner, maybe within minutes, there'd be thousands of people referred from Google News to read about the jobs report. And then, of course, that'd grow. But I mean, like, it was instant, you know. After 2016, it became very clear that they viewed this to be a problem of too much information. Like, this man would never have won if there wasn't so much information for people. Not disinformation. That's not what this is about. This is about information, the free flow of information, and your right and ability to go through it and then disseminate it as you see fit. To make up your own mind and decide whether or not this is worth disseminating on my social media page. I think this is worth other people should take a look at it. It's worth the time to read. They have a problem with that. Don't ever promote individual thought. And it was very clear from the jump. We knew that we were like backdoor blacklisted right off the bat. And what was our crime? Showing you alternative information, and also the real crime, because now we know this. Thanks to Project Veritas, we know this. We were the most accurate election projection model for 2 cycles. We debuted in 2014, and then in 2016, we beat them all again. And they couldn't have that. They need you only to look at the Larry Sabato and his tiny crystal balls, which apparently are very cloudy because he can't see stuff at all.
Good job.
Yeah, you know, I've been thinking about what Viva said. And Viva, if you're listening, I think you're right. I think you're right. So I've been thinking about it. And, you know,
Viva's right, but
Viva
not
is,
Laura.
Viva is,
That's okay.
you know, but I like the way Viva put it better. Like,
You
you're just
don't wanna
like,
say Laura's right again. That's
Laura
okay.
was right. All right. But I heard Viva put it another way yesterday, and I was like, you know what? Yeah. So they need you looking at Larry and his tiny crystal balls. They definitely need you to be reinforced by the guru who can't call an election correctly to save his life. All right. And they need you to just suck that narrative up. It's big money. The way people think elections are going to go is big money. It's not just about power and who wins in the end. Perceptions direct donations. They direct activity, they direct support, right? Which ultimately leads to the quid pro quo that is all through our political system. It's always a joke about that quid pro quo thing with Ukraine. It's always a joke. That's how bills are passed. They're passed through quid pro quos. I scratch my back, you scratch my back, I scratch yours. You support my bill and later I will support yours. That's how the sausage is made, Laura. This is like some ridiculous idea. And in foreign policy, it's all about a quid pro quo. It's all about it. The difference is whether or not that quid pro quo is corrupt. Right. Is public corruption. So will it personally benefit Joe Biden and his family? Right. Or is it whether or not we're looking into public corruption? Right. That's the whole damn system is a quid pro quo. That's how the status quo continues. Quid pro quos. They built up a lot of IOUs over the years, and they're powerful and have a lot of ways to influence a lot of people to do what they want to do. So this was always like, it's ridiculous. They rely on people's ignorance to how the system works to push this nonsense. Like we see today, and like we are seeing today. They're relying on ignorance to what free speech is really about. And I think sadly, especially in this new generation, I'm not trying to target any generation because, you know, I'm very hard on the Vietnam era generation. Very hard on them. But, and actually the greatest generation, with the exception of the war, I think that may be an overstatement as far as how much government was allowed to transform how in your daily life, you know. No, way too much. Way too much. So I'm not trying to pick on this newer generation, but it does seem like a lot of people don't really understand what free speech means. And it's not, it doesn't seem like it. It is it. And there's this very anti-freedom of speech, very anti-free press sentiment that has been making, permeating and being allowed to get coddled and nurtured and take root in our academic institutions. And that's dangerous. Free speech is not for you, your view, to protect you, to insulate you. Free speech is not for popular speech nobody has a problem with. Free speech is for unpopular points of view that you may not agree with. Because it is always the dissenting voices that, when you look back, the annals of history, hindsight is always 2020. It is always that dissenting voice that was trying to steer you away from totalitarianism. Always. So they're never popular, huh?
Founding fathers weren't very popular.
No.
Okay.
A lot of people, history truly is written by the winners.
Mm-hmm.
And the fact of the matter is, very small percentage of the colonies supported the revolution. I've seen a lot of estimates, that have changed. Middlecoff, I love Middlecoff. I think he's got a good grasp on he's a primary source guy like me, so he's got generally a good grasp. About a third. It's safe to say between a quarter and a third. But really no more than 33-35% tops. That's it. And even a fewer, smaller percentage, I should say, participated in it. History truly is written by the winners. But our founders were students of history, guys. Why did the Roman Republic fail? I don't know. Let's read Cicero, right? And Cicero made a horrible mistake, which was he believed reason would prevail. He didn't understand that the Roman Republic, if you could even call it that anymore, was in a post-reason period. Mm-hmm. Right? And same things with Periclean democracy. They researched why that failed. We don't know anything about that anymore. Generally speaking, people have no clue. I know, and it's all right to admit this. Some, I'm sure right now listening, have no clue what I'm talking about. That's good, actually, though, because you're listening to the show. And maybe you'll go and Google it afterward. Or maybe we'll talk about it. I really love this idea about reading from a book. Yeah, or DuckDuckGo it, right? I really love the idea of like a book segment where I read from passages, and because I constantly am looking for stuff that I don't know. That's okay. Mm-hmm. It's all right to admit you don't know something. Not in this period. We all think we know everything, and then we all 20 years ago, do you think we'd accept a hearing like this?
Nope.
This is dark. This is dark. And look at who the star witness is for the Democrats. Soledad, I love you. We've been following each other for years, but you are not the person to speak about this. I could go on your Twitter feed right now and find 5 fake conspiracies that you pushed. Or 5 just things that turned out to be not true. But Tucker is right. Why did they do this? Why did they see the world like this? I think a lot of people are just tools and don't really understand the greater...
Some are ignorant.
Yeah. I'm sure Soledad O'Brien is not sitting at home like, she just has been taught to believe what she believes, and she's clueless to see through it because she's been brainwashed. There's really no other word. This has nothing to do with race. They all see the world in terms of race, right? This isn't even traditional class, although Tucker put it the best he could. It is not a white versus black. It is not a Republican versus Democrat. It's not even a rich versus poor. Because as a pollster, I can tell you, there are a lot of well-to-do people. It's just that don't agree with this, that don't support statism in the least. They were the most fervent Trump supporters. But they also share a couple of things in common. They didn't go to Yale or Harvard. They worked their butts off and built a business from the ground up, and now they make 6 figures. They're not super wealthy. There's a lot of those. And that's why class doesn't really, that box doesn't really fit. It's experience. It's your position in society, right? Whether or not you are part of the elite or you are not.
Have you been thoroughly ashamed for being white?
Yeah.
Okay.
Then you're probably one of those wannabe elites. So if you feel guilty for being white, you're a wannabe elite, right? So you're in there. We know a lot of them.
It's just ridiculous.
It's just, but they make this very simple And that's why they push all these stories that they have pushed. The Michael Brown nonsense, you know.
Hands up.
George Floyd was a little bit different because typically they like to find ways to make that rift between race bigger. And so they like those Michael Brown stories and Trayvon Martin stories where they hope most white people will disagree with how they see that event, right? Because then that helps them cover for what it really is, which is an elitist versus non-elitist. This is like one of the strangest things to history ever. You have this power, this elite power center trying to crush the workers. Wherein, like, all these other periods of revolution, it was the total opposite. Right? This is a bourgeoisie revolution. Mm-hmm. It's the craziest thing in the world.
This is your beta revolution right now.
The bourgeois beta revolution.
Because they don't even
The
have
beta
guts
bourgeois,
to hold
like that
the
thing.
gun. They're
Yeah, they
trying
just
to
use
do
the institutions.
everything they possibly can before they have to actually
Use force. Use force. That's right. And that's what this is about today. That's what this is about today. Oh, well, here. That's because I got to probably spin it around. But that's what this is about today. They have to use the institutions because they can't use force to go in and stop, you know. And right now, because of this unique breed of American fascism, they don't have to. They find that these companies will be compliant most of the time. So they don't need to do that. But Laura's right. It's very beta in nature compared to other historical events because they want to use all of these other people or organizations, institutions to do their dirty work for them. It's remarkable. But it actually is to be expected because in all of these other revolutions in history, the base, the foundation of society was different than America. So America started as a ground up. It is a ground up society. It is not built from the top down. It never was. The rest of those countries were top downers.
Yes.
So the czars, the royal family in Russia, the Bolsheviks had to, you know, same thing with the French Revolution, Robespierre and the likes. These were people fighting monarchies. Where in our case, it's like the monarchists trying to fight the people who had the power in the beginning.
Yes.
I never
But
really
you gotta-
poach
like,
books, but
that's the
Thomas,
one thing.
let me
go
just
ahead.
say something. Thomas Purcell, years ago,
Oh, gosh.
independent
I love
author,
Thomas,
independent author wrote a book, Return of the Kings. And it was about how this is what it would look like in America. It's exactly what it looked like because they have been sitting there beneath the surface for like 200 years. There's always going to be monarchists. You know, that's what we called them in the revolution. But there's always going to be statists. There always were and there always will be. So it won't look the way it has looked in other countries. It will be a return of the kings as opposed to some dirty proletariat, guillotine off with your head, Robespierre like revolution. And it really was a fantastic
we're
book.
also fighting the dilemma where our older generations can't believe that this is really happening.
Yes, yeah.
Like they have to come to the realization
A denial.
that it's possible
It's a
today.
denial.
Yes,
And
they're in denial that it is impossible for America to be taken over by these stupid.
This will never happen.
Yes.
They'll never be able to. Who the hell did they think they are? They'll never be able to cancel Fox News.
And then watch.
What the hell are you talking about? Of course they can.
It's the same MO, people. Control the news.
Yeah.
Disarm
Same
the
thing.
people.
It just looks different.
And congratulations,
It's a newer
you
era.
no longer are free.
Yep, it's a newer era. That's all. I mean, that's it. And they kind of like sitting. This is why I am hard on like our parents' generation.
Yeah.
I think they really
Oh, they
dropped
fell
the damn
asleep
ball.
at the damn
I mean, they really did. I mean, the post-Vietnam or even during Vietnam, they really took their eye off the prize. I mean, they're so. Look, there was nothing deep about the Vietnam revolutionary this era. There was nothing deep or philosophical about it. They used a war that many of them were not fighting to basically do drugs and do nothing. There was nothing deep about it. Don't give me that crap. You left up to their own vices, human beings tend to want to shirk their duties.
Actually, it's
tend to
very
want to shirk the
artificial.
hard. Right.
Superficial.
M. Scott Peck, Lord of the Road Less Traveled. It is harder to do the right thing. It's much, much easier to do the wrong thing and then make excuses. What if you could frame it as I'm fighting some injustice, right? Wow, that really fits the bill. That really works. I mean, that's what essentially happened. So, I mean, look, I not to bash any of you guys, but if you're from that generation, but like I said, I mean, the truth is the truth. I have our generation, Laura and I, our generation has our own problems, and I don't deny those either.
And we don't relate with them.
We don't relate with them very easily, right?
No,
we don't.
No, that's why we don't speak politics around certain groups.
Most of them, most of our,
people,
most of our,
because-
yeah.
I mean, do you want to have a discussion? Because there's no more discussion, and for them to face that fact is another problem as well. They will not discuss the facts.
How many Vietnam era people did you get emails from, or that generation, which is about our parents, right? How many of them did you get emails from during the election when we were trying to raise the alarm? Oh, he'll never let that happen. They will never let that happen. How it's like this, you're right, there's this like dangerous denial.
Yes.
that it's possible.
They got to get over that. 7 stages of mourning. First one is acceptance, people.
Yeah.
All right?
Yeah.
You need to accept the fact that they are willing to do anything, everything to take your freedom from you, because there's
nothing.
There's only one thing that drives that side.
Nothing is beneath.
And I'm not just talking about the left.
No.
I'm talking about
the powerful.
The corruption.
The powerful.
Yes.
Period.
The powerful,
the
greed.
Yeah.
Greed of power.
The state.
Greed of money.
Yeah.
Greed of just being center of attention. They have power trips, issues, egos that need to be satisfied.
Yeah.
And until these people are gone, the world will never go back to the way
That's
it was.
right. That's right. But they're never going to be. So you have to be ever vigilant. Oh, you mean until that denial is gone?
Yes,
yeah.
Until that it's never
because the kings are never going away.
Yeah.
That's the thing. That's another part of what Tom argues. They're never going away. So you just have to be forever vigilant. That's it. That's it. There's no other way. And by the way, I was reading back my Jefferson the other day. I like to get all caught. This is something he said that, he wrote, that never escapes me. Which is that we always get bogged down in talking about what our rights are. I got the right to carry a gun. I got the right to free speech. I got the right. Yeah, you do. But if you want to be able to enjoy those rights, then you also have to every right, you have an equal or greater duty to ensure that those rights are preserved. So if you have the right to defend yourself.
But if you don't.
But you better get proficient with a firearm and learn firearms, right? About them, not just how to use them, learn about them. So when people come to you and push nonsense that really is not supported by data whatsoever, you're not duped by it, and then you give your right up. If you want to scream about how you have the right to have this thought or that thought, and then you better understand what comes along with freedom of speech, which sometimes is uncomfortable. And you have a duty to understand that. Jefferson was like one of the only ones who had the gall to say it,
Did
look,
George
you can't.
Washington have cannons in his shed?
I mean, but we ain't going into that.
No,
I mean,
but I'm just saying.
He afraid Hamilton might march an army one day.
I know. That was funny.
But he took a side quite a bit against Jefferson in his administration. He did. But right, I mean, these are men.
Yes.
Nothing was off limits to them. Nothing. Because they had, they understood that you can't really enjoy these rights unless you can see that you have some kind of duty to protect them. And we don't have that right now. We say we don't.
Well, they also don't know what it's like to have skin in the game. They just think that
that's true.
Like this won't happen.
Yeah,
so,
that's
like
true.
I said, denial. It
That's
all
true.
boils down to denial.
All right, so we'll go over that more after these hearings are over. I'm sure we'll grab some clips. The Republicans called Jonathan Turley. That's smart. I mean, anytime you can call a liberal to agree with you, then that's fantastic. Alan Dershowitz also had some fantastic things to say about this. This is fascism. To use your power to force a private sector to comply with the needs of the state. We always get bogged down in the political and really the racially charged political definition of fascism, and that's not at all what it is. Fascism has an economic definition. This is what it looks like. And this is something we've never seen in history, because this is more dangerous. This is far more dangerous, because at least you know what it is you're fighting and how to fight it when they're just using the power of the state itself. The coercive power. I'm talking about force. This is different. They're using aspects of society and industry. Really, the only remedy to this, Laura, is, the forces of freedom are going to have to make their own industry in areas of society that they have essentially ceded to status for years. So, entertainment, right? Big tech.
Yeah.
Even tech more broadly, right? New age technology. That's why somebody like an Elon Musk is a godsend. If he turned out to be just like Tim Cook and the rest of them, we'd be in serious trouble. But that's one element of society, and one that, as of now, doesn't touch that many people in their everyday lives. You need a lot more Elon Musks. You may not even have to agree with everything they say, but you need people who recognize that you have a right to believe or to agree or not to agree. So we will go back. Let's see what Jonathan says today. All right. I want to move on, though. All right. I really do. Let's look at this article on PPD. Okay.
Let's do this.
Joe Biden and the Biden White House in general have been running. I am. This issue of what we have done to our children because of COVID is my hill to die on. All right. It's one of my hills to die on. I feel very strongly about it. The evidence is overwhelming, and I cannot understand how we have allowed greed, ignorance, and fear to damage a generation. I cannot believe we've allowed that to fail our children. We were just talking about different generations. I don't know if any prior generation in American history is facing the ability of a lost generation, the ability to create a lost generation. And if they did, they certainly didn't fail their time. And there was no whole lost generation. We are on the precipice of failing an entire generation to the point where they will disappear from normal society. They will not be engaged. They'll be less human. I'm talking about how you view humanity, how you have deep connections to your community, to your faith, to your peers. I don't think people understand how very, very important it is to learn a social structure when you are a child. I am not understating this in the least. And we're going to look at some of these studies. We didn't even include everything because there's so much information. We didn't want to overwhelm the average reader. So we tried to stay, not on the surface, but we tried to stay within the 700 to 900 word realm. All right. I mean, all the research shows people lose attention span is 700 to 900 words. The links are there, and people could go and read other studies if they want. But all of this is very, very, very clear. The Biden White House is lying. They are not doing anything this year of consequence. The money that the schools needed to reopen, Donald Trump already appropriated. This money is a kickback to unions. Most of it will not be spent in fiscal year 2021, and I can almost guarantee that the teachers' unions will somehow end up with a lot of this money in their pockets instead of it going to what is necessary. So let's bring this in, okay? Here we go. Biden's COVID-19 relief bill does not support safely reopening, in quotes, because this is what the White House is pushing. Definitely not in 2021. And I don't know that it really has that much of an impact in general. Democratic legislation is more a payback for teachers' unions. All right, so the Democratic legislation allegedly aimed at providing relief from the coronavirus is not designed to safely reopen schools anytime soon. The bill, which is expected to rely on reconciliation for passage by simple majority, is more a payback for teachers' unions. The White House and congressional Democrats have touted the House Committee on Education and Labor. By the way, let me say that again. The House Committee on Education and Labor. Right? Appropriating $128.6 billion for the elementary and secondary school emergency relief fund to, quote, support schools in safely reopening. This is the biggest load of crap we have been fed in a long time. And if you have school-age children, you should be outraged at what this bill really not only does, but fails to do. And I really hate to tell you all, but if you believed Biden was being serious during the campaign, that he was, oh, I do support opening schools. I support them safely reopening.
He supports them as long as you vote and then changes his mind.
The truth is he was always going to do what the unions told him to do.
Of course.
That's it.
And it's
He has no autonomy in decision making. We'll get into this, but money buys stuff in politics, folks. It does buy compliance. However, the analysis from the Congressional Budget Office, and this is what I hate the CBO, and you all know it, finds roughly $32 billion a year is appropriated for fiscal years 2022 and 2023. I'm talking about each. The remaining $60 billion would be spent through fiscal year 2028. The only $6.4 billion, which I know it's like only, but only $6.4 billion of that $128.6 billion is slated for fiscal year 2021, less than 5%. So let me say this another way. Only 5% of what's in the bill could even go to 2021, and that's if it was appropriated correctly, which, as we know with government, is almost never the case. I think we all got a little bit spoiled under Donald Trump, where Donald Trump made sure that money that was slated for something actually went to it and wasn't wasted the way it's typically wasted. I think a lot of us forgot what happens under Democrat administrations. And then 4 years later, 3 years later, there's still $100 billion sitting in this pot, which is $100 billion in IOUs to China. And they use the Office of Management and Budget to reappropriate it to something else. And somehow Democrats are always allowed to get away with that, even though it's Congress who's supposed to be doing appropriations. Only under Republican administrations are administrations not allowed to redirect these funds. All right. There are less than 8 months remaining till the end of fiscal year 2021. It's September 30th. Multiple studies and reports, and now we're going to get into it, make it clear the period between now and then is key to safely reopening schools in time. This is the key. To further mitigate already significant damage to child education and health. In December, the Centers for Disease Control, which was corrupted by the teachers' unions, we now know that from the emails, okay? Everybody says, oh, Donald Trump pushed them to say schools could safely reopen. No, actually, the unions. I'm sure that Trump's administration did do that, because that's what all the science and data showed. Mm-hmm. What that really translates into is that Donald Trump tried getting the CDC not to cave to teachers' unions. That's what that really translates to. You got to learn how to speak DC. All right. Anyway, they estimated that implementing the recommendations to safely reopen schools would cost between $55 to $442 per child. There are roughly 51 million, and we found some conflicting data on this. Some sources, the one used by the CDC, said 51 million. We found another one from the American Association of Pediatrics. They said almost 60 million. All right, so the bottom line is it's not 60 million. We went with the 51 for this reason. It's not 60 right now, for damn sure, if it ever was, because there are so many kids who are just missing. There are thousands of kids in multiple large school districts that we looked at that are just, they've vanished. They're not doing distance learning, and they're not in school.
And it's sad.
They're gone, folks. They're gone.
And then when you decide to finally go back, you know what's going to happen? You're going to have kids that get dropped back. You're going to have...
If they even go back, they're in a gang.
If you can get
They could
them.
be in a gang right now.
Yeah, no.
Look at Loudoun County,
and
Laura.
then let's not mention that doing all of this shutdown, the suicidal rate goes up, starvation and famine. You know, certain families don't have the means. Schools were the ones that were helping them.
The data from... Yeah, that's right. And I understand you homeschoolers. I get it. And I am a supporter of homeschool. The problem is there had to be some sort of transition period. There are too many parents who aren't ready for it. There are just too many parents who aren't up to it in this country. I hate to say that, but it's a reality. And this was like a forced situation. This wasn't a conscious decision by two parents sitting down, a husband and a wife, and saying, you know what, I think it's best for our children to stay home and get homeschooled. That's not what this is. Anyone who has children knows that. It's very different. This was a forced situation, and they forced it on people who aren't. Maybe they could do it, but their financial situation, their economic status does not allow them to do it. They're not afforded that option. And then B, those who just don't give a damn, because there are a lot. The numbers from Fairfax County are sad. And those schools are keeping new arrivals out of MS-13. I mean, this is bad. This is immeasurable. And some of the studies we're going to talk about, they try to quantify it. They do. But it's almost impossible. What were you going to say?
Well,
and Laura, by the way, for many, 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 many years, was a supervisor in a school district where we lived. So she knows this firsthand. And she's about as conservative as it gets, folks. All right? But the fact of the matter is, she damn well knows if she didn't do it, many of those kids would have went hungry. Listen, if you didn't feed those children, they'd have been hungry,
I just want to say, I used to watch these children go home on Friday and then come back Monday like 10 pounds lighter. And you could see in their eyes that they were hungry. And then, I mean, I used to pay out of my own pocket just to feed that kid.
Because they have to have money on their accounts.
Yeah,
and
because if you get that meal for free, yes. Of course you do, but if that child wanted more food because he or she was starving over the weekend,
they get a basic whatever
a
meal.
Full meal.
It's a meal,
plenty,
right? But if they needed something
for food over the weekend, you're hungry. I don't care who you are. Let's starve you for 2 days and see how.
You ever watch a kid steal a roll off the lunch line because they have nothing at home on Saturday? You ever see them steal a juice box or something? Mm-hmm. All right. I mean, a lot of people, I think, don't understand how many derelict parents there are in this country.
And that's why the school actually does help with a program where they actually send meals home to those children and those families.
I just looked at mine. Sorry. I was looking to see if I could retweet it. I didn't even realize I was.
But this is the thing, that we're dealing with famine now.
Yep.
We're dealing with high abuse rates because sometimes Monday through Friday was the only time that child got a chance to get away from getting beat every day.
Look at
or verbally abused, not even just physical.
The abuse hotline was overwhelmed.
Yes.
Overwhelmed when the lockdown started. All right, and at that time, by the way, she still was doing this. When the lockdown started, folks, the abuse hotline in Florida was overwhelmed. All right, there were not only domestic between spouses but children. And it was heartbreaking, all right? There are a lot of, sadly, parents who have children who have no business having children. It's just, it's a fact of life in America. They look at their children, right. They look at their children as added food stamps every month. They look at their children as added whatever disability they get. Mm-hmm. That's what their kids mean to them, a welfare check. And that may not be popular today, in today's day and age. That's just tough crap. That's a reality of life. Media doesn't focus on it. It's a third rail because they don't live in this world. Mm-hmm. They don't live in the. They didn't grow up in a neighborhood where they had to watch their friends' mothers spend the welfare check on crack at the first of the month, and then their friends starved all throughout the rest of the month.
And not only that, they really don't even understand that concept, because I remember receiving a pamphlet of how to deal with inner city kids. And
It was ridiculous.
It was a joke.
It was a joke.
And I try to help them understand because I know what it's like to be from the ghetto.
Right.
And so I helped those teachers understand that the way you confront
This
a
is
child
ridiculous.
who's been abused.
This
who's
is
been
written by a
starved.
white liberal.
Yes.
You have no idea what you're talking about.
So
You're
I
going to
mean,
shut the child down.
There are a lot of problems, and not only that, but just basic social skills.
That's where I'm getting into
You
that.
know.
Yep, we're going to, yeah, exactly. We're going to
Yeah.
get into that. How they don't know how to look you in the eye. They don't know how to shake your hand. They don't know lying is wrong. I mean, this is stuff that they would not get at home. Now, if you're a good family, then you can't understand how this could be. And I get that. We don't rely on the school system to teach our children right from wrong. In fact, we're constantly watching to make sure they don't pollute their understanding of right or wrong. But there are many, many, many households, if you even want to call them that do not. But let's get.
Second part to that too is also that parents sometimes are too busy trying to put food on the table.
That was A.
Yeah.
That was A. This is B.
Yeah.
Right? So that's of the homeschooled comments I get from people who are proponents of homeschooling. What they don't seem to understand too is that there is that what we were just talking about was B. But A also is that they're not afforded the ability to do that. Their economic status does not allow them. Too busy making ends meet. And yesterday, I don't want to get into this or sidetrack it, but we were just talking with an organization, hearing from them yesterday. These are working parents. Some of them have multiple jobs and they're still dealing with hunger. The numbers they tried to sell me on were unbelievable. 1 out of 6 working families have children who have children who are hungry. It's astonishing.
I'm sorry, I'm just very passionate about this subject. So sorry,
this is
go
why,
ahead.
yeah. But so with, let's say 51 million are still in the system, okay? Then the CDC estimates that it would cost anywhere between 2.8 billion and 22.5 billion to get schools up and running again. Now, I would also say real quick before we move on, reform the schools. Don't forsake them because we collectively have allowed them to be overrun by nutcase fanatic ideologues. That's our fault. That's our fault. That's not the fault of the actual idea of a public education system, which our founders believed in, by the way. It's just they did it in a different way. Massachusetts, they were mostly settled by the Congregationalists, what we now know later as later Pilgrims. John Adams was a Congregationalist. They had the church handle public education for years until the mid-1800s, in fact. All right? Anyway, an analysis of the U.S. Department of Education data, which was, the Department of Education provided the data. It was done by the nonprofit Foundation for Research on Equal Opportunity. It shows states already had, thanks to Donald Trump, between anywhere, depending on the state, 53 and 63 billion from prior relief packages. Thank you, Donald J. Trump. Including funding for reopening plans provided by the Trump administration. That's what I was just saying. Thank you, Donald J. Trump. Quote, with more than $53 billion in available federal emergency funds, state education agencies should have more than enough funds to implement the CDC's recommended mitigation strategies to safely reopen. This is what the Foundation for Research on Equal Opportunity said. This is not the Heritage Foundation, okay? This is not AEI. This is not some supposed conservative right-wing think tank. But understand that distinction has got to be made here. So what is this money for? In the name of our children. So we're failing our children, and then we're using them to line the pockets of special interest groups. This is how disgusting we've become.
You remember when they lined those children up holding signs?
Oh, this is just... They're props for these people. These teachers don't give a damn about these kids. If you support teachers' unions, I'm tired of referring to teachers as heroes. I think we've proven conclusively over the last 6 to 8 months there are teachers who are heroes. I know teachers from my school age years. I would have turned out a lot differently if it wasn't for, I can name them on one hand, but there were definitely teachers who made a huge difference in my life, and they are heroes in my own personal life.
But they're far and few between.
The Mark Davies, the Bill Gallaghers. You remember them, Laura. These are people I was not headed in the right direction. And people, that's just a reality. There are people who have had huge impacts on, but we should stop generalizing these people. Like they're all heroes because they have they decided to get into this profession. You kidding me? With funds already available for safely reopening schools and additional appropriations delayed over the course of several years, it's unclear who or what will eventually benefit. What is clear is that it's not a priority of the Biden administration and congressional Democrats to mitigate the damage already done and yet to be done to children from school closures. How significant is that damage? It's almost immeasurable, though many are attempting to gauge it. School-age children have experienced a surge in mental health issues, and large percentages have simply vanished from the system. A study published by the Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development, the OECD, a Paris-based left-wing bureaucracy, by the way, warned the loss of in-person learning could reduce the lifetime income of students by 3%. 3% is a lot. A 3% gain in income is huge in our economic indicators. It's huge. It's something Barack Obama and Joe Biden never accomplished. It's the benchmark for wealth creation. How big is 3%? It's the benchmark for wealth creation. It's why we incessantly for 2 years focused on 22, 24 consecutive months of 3% or greater gain. We hadn't seen it since the Great Recession. A study in the American Medical Association, JAMA Network Open, finds that this financial stress could result in the collective loss of, are you ready? 13.8 million years of life.
I cannot.
That's called, this is what we refer to as deaths of disparity. There is an established connection between GDP and quality of life.
These lives are okay to lose, though.
They don't give a damn about these kids
or the future.
Well, this is what really bothers me. It's irrational because this is what really bothers me. This is the future. So I understand, you're a piece of garbage who doesn't care about children. I get that. What I don't understand is, what don't you have your own grandchildren? Don't you? Don't you care about the world they're gonna live in?
No, they don't. That's how despotic they are.
Teachers unions spent because they're cushioned from the largely from their own consequences. I would argue though, Laura, that this is a false sense of security. Just like we have built our own, we have allowed our own class, our own society to fall in certain traps of a false sense of security, like we were just talking about before. It'll never happen that the military will basically control Washington, D.C. It'll never happen that the government will be forcing private organizations off the air, private media outlets. It will never happen that you'll be able to take this from an incumbent president. It'll never happen that the FBI is so corrupt that they'll launch a witch hunt against a sitting president. I mean, on and on. Yeah, I still talk to people who still believe Russia collusion because they don't believe it's possible that the media would lie to them like that. I mean, this is how silly. Stupid is not the right word. Ignorant is probably better because stupid is implied that you can't learn. These people don't want to learn they don't have the information to learn. All right. Anyway, teachers' unions spent millions of dollars to elect Joe Biden and Democratic candidates up and down the ballot last November. Similarly, they spent millions lobbying to keep schools closed, despite overwhelming evidence that they are safe to open, and that the damage done by closures far outweighs the risks of reopening. That amount of money buys a lot of disinformation and a lot of procrastination. I was just talking to my own family members. I'm not going to blow them up here, but I have spoken with my own family members who still believe that kids are super spreaders. Contrary to Democratic claims echoed by a friendly corporate media, the data have never supported school closures. Since the early stages of the pandemic, researchers have been warning about prolonged school closures due to long-lasting negative consequences for students. By the way, those voices were just muted. Even the Fox Newses of the world just did everything that they could to keep them off the air. And if, God forbid, you were an MD who disagreed and you went on Twitter, you were removed.
And then they tried to attack your office too,
Right.
your medical.
Right. They'll go after you professionally. Research at University College London, UCL, when we reported on this at the time, suggested school closures would do little to mitigate the spread of COVID-19. That research was published in the Lancet Child and Adolescent Health Journal back in April of 2020. It reviewed 16 previous studies to include 9 that looked at school closures during the 2003 outbreak of severe acute respiratory syndrome, otherwise known as SARS, in China, Hong Kong, and Singapore. Why does that matter? SARS is a respiratory disease caused by a coronavirus similar to the one that causes COVID-19. COVID-19 is dubbed as novel, right? This is a novel virus. In truth, it behaves a lot like a SARS virus when it comes to transmission. The research concluded school closures, quote, did not contribute to the control of the pandemic, unquote. A study in Pediatrics, the official journal of the American Academy of Pediatrics. And by the way, just to go back, before I close that out, children did not carry a high enough viral load to become super spreaders to adults in schools during the 2003 outbreak, and as well as the other SARS-related viruses that were studied. Guess what? COVID-19 is no different. Children generally, now can there be exceptions? Of course, but children generally do not carry a high enough viral load to infect adults in mass. It's just not the way the virus works. A study in Pediatrics, the official journal of the American Academy of Pediatrics, stated, quote, measures to mitigate risk for educational and health disparities among children have been woefully lacking, unquote, despite, back to quote, months of public health and political discourse, to include what they refer to as historic action taken under the Trump administration, of all people, they praise. They called the bill historic. The CARES Act was a historic $2 trillion bill that provided more than enough to get this going. Or what they said, in their words, to ensure the educational, nutritional, like Laura was saying, physical and mental health needs of children are met, unquote. This is right from the study. Action is needed to offset the risk for educational losses among all children, as well as exacerbated educational disparities among children in poverty, the study warned. Unforeseen extended school closures can lead to lower test scores, lower educational attainment, and decreased earning potential. So basically, everything that we were just talking about. You want to say something? Go ahead, because I'm.
Well, to me,
I need a cool down period.
Yeah, I know.
This pisses me off, Laura, so bad.
The fact that
cowards.
The fact that they value money over, which goes to show you that they don't really truly believe in a republic, because they really don't care, because they are seeing it as the elites are going to run the country anyway.
And that's it. They'll be insulated.
Who cares if these children
They'll be
in
insulated.
public schools don't get to do that, and yet these very same people scream on the top of their lungs how they're advocates for those children in those in the urban areas, and how they fight
they're
for
the ones being hurt the most right now, as you well know.
I know.
But even the studies are showing. That's why David Brooks, a couple weeks back, I really got pissed at him for doing this, phrasing it this way. He chose to focus black and brown students need to get back in schools now. All students, David, need to be back in schools now.
Well, but just think about it, because
he made it about race, though.
Gangs they have their pick of the lot.
Absolutely.
I mean, I remember in New York, if it wasn't the Latin Kings, it was the Bloods. If it wasn't the Bloods, it was the Crips. If it wasn't the Crips, it was the Gods.
Somebody's waiting for you.
MS-13 now. There is always a gang who is happily to take advantage of
in
that
their backyard
who has too much time on their hands.
Right in their backyard. See, they're not El Salvadorian, so they don't care. It's not their kid who's going to get recruited by MS-13. But, I mean, if they find someone of their ethnic persuasion, right? And it's right outside their back. It's right. Loudoun County used to be beautiful. Fairfax, too, by the way, used to be beautiful. And I'm not saying some parts of Loudoun aren't beautiful still. I mean, Fairfax is a dump, let's be real. But they have these insulated little communities where they basically can do what they want. Their kids don't have to worry about it. They may have to worry about the crime that is associated with it, but they'll be fine because
that's the only time that they'll get upset if the crime leaks into their front gate.
That's right.
Their brick wall or their gilded cage that they've created. That of course, that doesn't work for anybody else but them.
Right.
And just like they have the armed guards that are
speaking
around
of cages,
their house.
Biden is using the facility that Trump used to hold these children at the border. If you guys, I'm sure you're not hearing about it from major media. There's a major problem at the border. We're being flooded. We're at 95 as of the other day was 95% capacity. Joe Biden is using the very facilities that Democrats and he himself called cages. In truth, it was always the Obama administration who built the cages. The Trump administration used HHS, all right, for some of these other areas, DHS and HHS for some of these other facilities. And Biden is using these facilities right now, and no one is saying anything. By the way, Judge Drew Tipton, U.S. District Court Judge Drew Tipton, he issued a ruling against Biden's deportation moratorium. So he indefinitely, by the way, the 100-day, he indefinitely extended Biden was trying to ban the deportation practice that Trump had in place. He lost. So Ken Paxton, the Attorney General of Texas, 50 executive orders, and only Ken Paxton challenges one. When Democrats challenged everything, Donald Trump did.
It's amazing.
And by the way, never did he reach those numbers. But Republicans in D.C. and the Heritage Foundations, completely ineffective. They don't take $1 out of their pockets to file a single lawsuit. Only Ken Paxton filed a lawsuit and got results. And by the way, he's doing what they did. The district that is familiar, the district that he would sue in is a favorable district to it's not just to the right, to the Constitution.
Isn't it amazing? Somebody actually using their
black
own
and white
tactics against them?
Yep.
Oh my goodness.
Yep.
But somebody, I want to say Kiyashi, I'm sorry if I butchered your name, made a very good, valid point. Ignorant people are easier to control.
That's right. They are. That's very true.
That's what it also boils
That's
down to.
very, very true. All right, let's go back here, and we're going to take, I don't know, it's 12:07. We're going to take a little break. When we come back, what do you want to do? Like, you want to do Bad Habit, like a 2-minute break, or you want to do like a 30-second break? I mean, I'm kind of good, you know.
Right,
I just I'm just looking at what else we could go over. I have some. I know what else.
I also have some questions.
I want to go over some economic stuff too. Which we'll take a quick break then. All right. And we'll roll out with Bad Habit. All right. So hang tight, folks. Hang tight. We're gonna be back in about 40 seconds or so. Stay tuned in. All right. You're watching Inside the Numbers.
I love you. I don't hear it. I don't hear it.
Yeah, I'm ready. Let's just go. I'm ready. I just needed a quick second for a sip of water. You're watching Inside the Numbers with the People's Pundit. I am your very down-to-earth host, Rich Barris, the People's Pundit. Don't forget to follow me on Twitter at Peoples_Pundit and sign up if you haven't already to Gitmo Life. All right? Gitmo Life, a better user interface than Twitter. By the way, I got to remind me to call Steve about that. Also, you can find me there at People's Pundit. Very simple. No underscore. No copyright infringing username that Twitter refuses to enforce. All right. Also, like the page People's Pundit Daily on Facebook, and don't forget to hit the notification bell after you subscribe on YouTube. All right, that'll let you know when we are going to go live. What else? Did I miss anything else? I've been locals. Yes. Follow, sign up on locals. Now that we got this situated, I'm going to be popping on to locals pretty much every day. Now that I have this situated, okay? I really, really would love for that streaming service to come online because that would make it easier, you know. But it is what it is. we're going to be commenting, about legislation. We have this one making its way through now. Mitch McConnell's an idiot. Big legislation like this, as if Democrats were never going to go to the simple majority to get through big pieces of legislation. Once upon a time, in a land not far away, all right, and not that long ago, the Senate relied on 60 votes to pass what was viewed to be major legislation, Obamacare, and then big bills. They're using the process known as reconciliation, which is a budget gimmick, guys, that we used to use for continued funding, right, for a continuing resolution, CRs. Now they're using it to pass big $2 trillion legislation bills that are kickbacks to their buddies. Never have we done this before. And there's so much that Republicans could have done if Mitch McConnell would have not been a chode and realized that he was going to get suckered. When it was either shared power or when it was Chuck Schumer, they were always going to demand a simple majority on nominations, no matter what they are, and major pieces of legislation. You might notice that Mitch was willing to nuke the nuclear option to get his Federalist Society buddies on the bench, but he was not willing to do it to push agenda items that the base voted for and wanted. Well, Democrats will, of course. Of course. All right, so they're going to do that. And we'll talk more about what's in this bill. But again, if take away anything from the last segment, what's not in this bill is help for our children when they need it. Any reference to reopening schools safely in 2021 is a lie. The truth of the matter is Donald J. Trump already appropriated plenty of money to the states to follow the CDC guidelines. Schools could be open tomorrow if it was not for the teachers' unions and Joe Biden's bend-over obedience to them. And in fact, they have the nerve to try to argue that they weren't opposed to school closures. It's a certain level of audacity. All right, let's talk about the economy a little bit. No bueno. Let's talk about the economy, okay? I hate doing these stories. I'd rather go back to the era of Donald Trump where I could talk about record highs and positive news. Consumer confidence rises modestly after post-election decline. Future optimism is diminished. So this idea that this was a good report is ridiculous. It was a temporary blip. The current condition index improved, which overall drove up consumer confidence, but the short-term outlook is deteriorating. The Conference Board, and by the way, that goes with the Survey of Consumers. That's right in line with the Survey of Consumers Sentiment Index. That's right in line with all of the other indicators. We'll talk about that. Yes. The Conference Board Consumer Confidence Index rose modestly in February after months of a post-election decline, driven by a more negative view of the future, especially among that working class we were just talking about. The index now stands at 91.3. On its face, not that bad, guys. An increase from a slightly upwardly revised 88.9 reading for January. All right. The present situation index, which is based on consumers' assessments of current business and labor market conditions, rose from 85.5 to 92 flat. The percentage saying conditions are good rose slightly from 15.8 to 16.5, while those claiming business conditions are bad fell from 42.4 to 39.9. That's not bad, actually. But the expectations index, based on consumer short-term outlook for income, business, and labor market conditions, fell again from 91.2 last month to 90.8 in February. The percentage expecting conditions to improve over the next 6 months, fell 34.1 to 31 flat. So it fell 3.1%. While those expecting them to worsen did also decline by a less 2.3%. All right, here is the Consumer Confidence Index. As you can clearly see, it was at near record highs that we had not seen since Bill Clinton the tech boom in the 90s under Donald J. Trump, as you can clearly see. Here's 2018, where it was through the moon, 137.9, October of 2018. It remained gangbuster throughout the Trump administration. Then came the pandemic. By the way, you might notice now we are putting the gray shaded out. Even the St. Louis Fed made a similar decision. In their economic indicators, the recession band is now continuing. It was the case that it appeared the recession had ended in May of 2020. It was more like a hurricane event than it was a normal business cycle. Unfortunately, and you can clearly see, it's rebounding. And we thought we'd have some ups and downs, but for the most part, it was coming back until Joe Biden was elected, and then it plummeted. All right? And it ticked up a little bit. We're not headed to the levels we had seen under Donald Trump. So we made the decision, unfortunately, to keep the gray recession band moving, because those V's, remember the V's? The V-shaped this, the V-shaped that? Almost every indicator that did display V's are now showing declines again. So it does not warrant us declaring an end in May. I wish that was the case, but we're reversing. And you need consistent rebounding growth to be able to justify the end of a recession. And we certainly are not seeing that. Would we have if Donald Trump was reelected? 100%. 100%. You better believe it. Because all of this is due to how people feel now that Joe Biden is president. Okay? Businesses make decisions. Consumers make decisions based on what they believe to be the conditions in the future. And it's small business is not even alone anymore in viewing this to be bad news. All right? Anyway, the expectation index fell again. We now know that. There's the chart. So here is Lynn. After 3 months of consecutive declines in the present situation index, you mean after Joe Biden was elected, Lynn? That's what you mean, Lynn. Consumers' assessments of current conditions improved in February. Not by much, and you know it, Lynn. This course reversal suggests economic growth has not slowed further. That's the best that they can get. That's the best Franco can get out of this. This course reversal suggests economic growth has not slowed further. If we were to compare and contrast Franco's comments here after Donald Trump was elected, you would want to cry. Because everybody else, Franco, was touting that this was the end of the malaise. America is experiencing a great optimism. I don't even want to read it on air. Okay? It's sad. Now the best they can muster up is at least we're not falling anymore into the Regardless of the modest overall increase in pandemic aside, these post-election months have produced the lowest consumer confidence reading since May of 2016, and the first in the 90s since a month before the election in November 2016. The Consumer Confidence Survey is based on a probability design random sample and is conducted for the conference board by Nielsen. Nielsen, the ratings company. All right. The cutoff date for the preliminary result was February 11th. So it is important to remember we will get revisions to this. Do not be surprised at all to see this fall more because of some bad economic data that came out after the 11th. Okay? As much as the media wants to try to twist it. I mean, we've lost jobs. The weekly jobless claim number, if it gains again tomorrow, I'm going to cry. I'm literally going to cry. As People's Daily previously reported, a slew of key economic indicators took a turn for the worse following the election inauguration of Joseph R. Biden. It's a stark reversal from the historically positive trends that followed the election and inauguration of Donald J. Trump and the recovery after the height of the pandemic-induced lockdown. This is what the media is going to try to BS you on. And Democrats, I've already heard them, Laura's shaking her head. After the pandemic, things were already returning, with the exception of jobless claims, which I lamented myself, and the exception of insured unemployment, which I wish would have fallen quicker. The economic indicators that are reported on the calendar month after month, week after week, day after day, year after year, were returning to their pre-pandemic levels.
Well, that's why the killer bees
After
came out.
the shutdown.
You remember?
Yeah. The killer
Chinese
bees.
killer bees.
The killer bees were not dissuading the American consumer.
So then COVID had to become worse.
And then they did. So they
Just
recycled
look at
COVID. They recycled the fear from COVID. And in truth, all they really did was they did hurt more jobs. They hurt your job. If you're out of a job, you can blame them. Mm-hmm. All right, because these things, indicator, graph after graph. This is why we do show graphs. They were all recovering. Again, the only thing I ever found myself complaining about week after week was the insured unemployment rate. But I want to talk about that now because that was something different. The CARES Act, and if for those of you who have been watching the show for a long time, you know I couldn't stand the CARES Act, the provision in the CARES Act that had to do specifically with the unemployment benefit extension, the way they structured unemployment benefits. They made it better for more people to sit at home and collect unemployment benefits through the summer of 2020. It was financially smart. And then also, if you're terrified about getting COVID or passing it off to grandma, then you don't want to go back to work. So all incentives were to keep chronically high insured unemployment. And that's what it did. And in the early part of the show, I remember the arguments when this show first started. I remember the arguments back and forth on this show when it was a multiple person show about how the hell this was going to play out.
You got me off guard with that one.
And I freaking told you so. So, after those benefits had expired, lo and behold, we saw benefits drop below. We saw claims drop below 1 million. Right away. Right away. So like Laura said, the killer bees didn't work. So they started to strangle large state economies again. Mm-hmm. New York, California. And after a while, it had reverberations, especially with what was going on with oil before COVID. It started to have reverberations into other redder states that did not. All right. So where the blame belongs is really clear. And now that they are starting to loosen their stranglehold on the American worker and on the American business, it's unfortunately a little too late for many of them. It's just too late. So this new bill that Biden is pushing, why am I bringing this up? This new bill that Biden is pushing repeats the same stupid mistake. They're going to incentivize people not to want to go back to work. They're going to extend those benefits, even though week after week we would tell you every single article, every show, we would read to you how the number of states that had people on pandemic assistance was dramatically falling. So why not? So why not repeat the same mistake? You already won the election. Who cares? Who cares how many people you hurt? We have 10 million people out of work. We have a labor market crisis, and you want to legalize 11 million. I'm sure that will do nothing to drive wages down. On top of all of this foolish, proven to be foolish, fiscal policy. It's just incredible. Everybody has failed by this COVID relief bill. Relief. Workers, kids, just to sum it all up. So let's, with 12:25, I think I can hear your time's almost up. So with 12:25, let's get some questions in. Yeah, let's get some questions.
All right. So, let's see. Let's go from the top.
Let's see. Bang.
M. Holla wants to know, how long will Biden last? His dementia is becoming very obvious.
Yeah, that's a really good question. Do we have that video? We don't have that video.
Oh, where he's staring off?
My
Oh,
God.
that
No,
was
not the staring off video. The video of him
No, I didn't load that one.
trying to talk about the 500,000 death threshold
Yeah.
at the White House.
What-
Oh my God.
What was it?
Maybe I can find it on my
Milestone
Twitter.
was Millstone.
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 Millstone. Yep. Biden. Millstone. Yeah, look. It's trending.
No.
Or it was milestone video. I'm going to pull it up. I'm going to show the video because I do want oh my God, the White House actually put it up on the freaking...
No, they didn't.
Yes, they did. All 17 minutes of mumbling and bumbling like an idiot. Holy Toledo. All right. Let's see if this is in here. See, this is CNN. So there's going to be a bunch of people. I know
Well,
the
you
Daily
find that, I'm
Caller
gonna
had
ask
one.
you another
The
question.
honest answer is we don't know just yet. I mean, but the fact of
But
the
they're
matter
making
is
their moves.
they're postponing the State of the Union after that address was postponed. And I mean, you can say it's for COVID all you want. The guy can't speak. All right? He needed to not work at all on the campaign trail to be able to get that convention speech done. You know, it wasn't a great speech. It was an unremarkable speech. But his bar was so low that everybody praised him for such a fantastic speech, right? So basically, he barely made it through. But now, even like he said the other day, I've only been president a few weeks. It feels like a few years. You can't hide or shirk duty now, right? You could pass off to Kamala all you want. And really, to answer that question, it depends because we're still so unstable. They wouldn't have the military in Washington, D.C. if they felt like a stable, credible government. They don't. They're acting like a third world government who's lost their regime credibility. So now would not be the right time to push Joe out, right? However, for all intents and purposes, everything we hear, she is the president. She is the president of the United States right now. Kamala Harris talks to most foreign leaders herself. She does a lot of the decision making. He doesn't even know what the executive orders he's signing say. That's the reality.
He's told not to look.
I mean, right. Everyone said I was being too, hyperbolic when I said that. And then that audio came out. It was very clear. You don't need to be a CIA language specialist or a CIA body language specialist to see that he was told to shut up and sign. He went to look and see what it was, and they just made the motion that it looked like they said something along the lines of, don't worry about it, just sign it. Don't worry about it, what it says, I'll tell you later. And he did. Then the audio came out, and that's in fact what happened. Or generally, I'm summing it up. But just don't worry about it, sign it, we'll talk about it later. Now is not the time. Now is not the time to show everybody in the press pool you have no idea. I mean, so the president's main job, he has two. To be the chief law enforcement officer. That is not the attorney general's job. In fact, the president is the boss of the attorney general. Contrary to everything we heard during the Trump administration, Robert Mueller was not above the executive branch. He is the executive branch. And his second primary function, aside from enforcing the laws of the United States, is to be the nation's top diplomat, chief diplomat. And by those standards, Kamala Harris is the president already. Because she is serving, and everybody knows it. Everyone who covers the beat knows it. She is serving as the nation's top diplomat, not Joe Biden. All right, so let's move on while I look to find this. I mean, what I'm finding is the CNN videos that cut it out.
All right. So Micah says, circle enough times around the sun and the pendulum does swing. Does it not? The left that I grew up around believed in free speech and had an inherent distrust of corporations and alphabet government agencies.
Yeah.
But those days are now gone.
Yeah, this is something that's so deeply disconcerting to me.
Yes.
I'm with you on that. My not to date myself, but my Democratic Party was the party of civil liberties and the working class. Yeah, they were always for big government statists, but for the most part, they didn't want to use government for those purposes. They were deeply, deeply distrustful of the national security state. Or at least that was their platform. And now, where's the ACLU when the president was being persecuted by the shadow government, whatever you want to call it? That used to be our ACLU. And I was really, who was it? It was a doctor the other day on Tucker who is a liberal. And finally, one of the first to, oh, here it is. You know what? I'm going to play this for you guys. Okay? Because she's like all alone, Laura. She's all alone. Yeah, all by myself. Right. And her warning is basically that you don't have much time as a student of history. Where are all the liberals here? Why are there so many liberals who are afraid? This is her name's Naomi Wolf. I do not agree with her on anything, but she is a liberal, a left-wing feminist, and a former advisor to Bill Clinton. And to answer that, question, I'm sad that there aren't enough. And during the era of Trump, those who did try to step forward were clearly, they attempted to castrate these people, right? The Adam Dershowitzes, right? Yeah. The Jonathan Turleys. These people were really in hot water, and they were castigated, basically. All right, so you're going to see it on my Twitter feed first. I'll make it bigger, all right? And we'll go from there, all right? Let's play this. Let's make it bigger so we can all see it, hear it, and make sure the volume's on. You should be able to hear this. Tell me if they can hear this, okay?
So I have a delay for you. No. No.
No. That's weird. I can hear it. But what she's basically saying is that there's nowhere in the U.S. Constitution, and it says right here, I mean, you should be able to.
It's because I didn't load it.
Oh, I was asking you if you could hear it. I just killed it on them.
No sound. There was no sound.
Oh, there was no sound for them? All right, let's try that again, actually. Okay? Can they hear this? They can't hear that? No? Okay. Well, basically what she tries to do is push back on the idea of the shutdowns and basically say, that there wasn't enough liberals who were willing to speak out, and that nowhere in the Constitution does it say, if there's a bad virus, then we do this, right? If there's a bad virus, we suspend this document. And that, and as she went on to say that basically this is a problem, that those civil libertarian views from the Democratic Party have gone away because you don't have much time in these periods. This is what history tells us. You don't have much time to course correct. Government never gives back these powers. And that is why old school liberals, and this is what, she said, this is why old school liberals did oppose it. Because they understood they understood big government better than anybody. Once they seize these powers, you don't get them back. They don't get rid of them. They don't lay that down. And that's why, by the way, again, Robert Higgs, Crisis in Leviathan, they never give it back. It is only, oh, and they can hear me, what I was saying, right? They never give it back. It always is used to further further the size and scope of government in your life. So once it's okay to do this for a pandemic, then it's okay for other public health and other public safety and in the interest of security, in the name of security and national security. That'll be next. And that's why they opposed at the time the Patriot Acts, right? Or at least in its original form. But they always hated FISA. They always hated the FISA court. And unfortunately, there's not enough of those voices now. Let's get the next one.
All right. Your next question is...
I'm just going to take another sip of water.
Well, I can answer this one. Pink Sniper wants to know,
Hit it.
Born in 84, am I a millennial? Yes, sorry. Unfortunately.
Yes, you are. Yes.
Mark.
But
Yeah.
you don't act like a millennial, so that's different.
Yeah.
Vince Locker wants to know, said we should do a virtual book club with books that truly matter in
Yeah.
these times. Great idea.
I was thinking of doing a segment basically on that. I don't want to tell people they have to buy a book, so that's what I've been kind of like working out.
But if they want to, they can follow
Yeah.
along with whatever book that,
Maybe we'll say we're going to do this book for this week or month. Probably.
Month, more
But the thing is that as times and news move, I think about other books, right? So maybe what I can do is try to locate PDF versions of some that are out there publicly, when allowed, and go from there. Because there are tons of times I want to reach out and grab a book and say, you know what? First of all, I always have this spirituality book on my desk every day. All right. It's a couple things here. Emotionally Healthy Spirituality, Day by Day. A 40-day journey with the Daily Office. Peter Scazzero, if I'm saying it correctly. And I got this from my old pastor. When Andy Stanley was my old pastor. And the church gave it to me and was like, here, this is something we all, love to read. And it's cool. Every day, so I keep it on my desk. Because every day what you basically do is you do a thought reflection period, basically, where you do an opening prayer. Most of you, I'm sure, prayer is part of your daily thing. And then there are quotes, and it's not just religious quotes. They're from historic figures where you reflect on things that may be relevant in your life. And it's amazing. What's brilliant about that book is that every day it's relevant. Even no matter what is going on in your life. Somehow, it's one of those books that were written that way. Every day, there's two. There's one in the morning or midday, and then one midday or night, however you choose to do it. And it's genius in that he wrote it for no matter who the hell you are, you'd get it. And then that's something like a Just for Today. Some people do that. And then right now, I was reading this because my son and I were talking about books on political philosophy, and I pulled this out to show him, and he was like, why on earth would you have a book like this? But because you have to know.
You have to know thy enemy.
Yeah, you have to know thy enemy. So it's actually on my desk right now, and I'm reading it now. This is Vladimir Lenin. It's Imperialism, the highest stage of capitalism. And I told him to read it small, but read it and get to know how they think, right? What was driving his ideology that led to a revolution. And look at how flawed it is, right? Look at how badly flawed it is. Because now, what Lenin didn't have was history when he wrote this. Lenin didn't know how this was going to go. So I don't know how you could possibly subscribe to what he wrote when it went so horribly wrong.
All right. Somebody wanted to know, you said the title of Return of the Kings. Who was the author?
Thomas Purcell. He's an independent author. He's not published by Regenary or whatever, anything. I mean, very smart guy. He was a Mesa guy at the time he went. He was the youngest Mesa guy ever. But he does a show, too. We used to cover it.
Name, though,
Purcell, Purcell. Okay? And if you want, I'll ask Tom to send me like some PDF thing. I'm sure he'll do that. Maybe he'll do some kind of discount for the show or something like that. He sold a lot of Shotgun Republic. What was it called? It was a book about the Second Amendment. Shotgun something. And he sold a lot of copies of those, but Return of the Kings was something that was years and years ago, and probably 10 or more years old now. And he didn't get much fanfare on it, but it's fantastic. It really is. He's a good writer, Tom. Really good writer. He used to, if a name rings a bell, we used to have Liberty Never Sleeps on People's Planet Daily until we essentially had some technical problems. And then he used to write columns, opinion columns on People's Planet Daily. Hilarious opinion columns. His article about Columbus Day, every year, Laura, on Columbus Day, this article will get 5,000 or 10,000 views out of nowhere. And it's old. It's crazy. But it's because it's such a fantastic article. All right. But yeah, let's get the, you know what? I'm actually going to look at, but while you give me the next one, I'm going to look it up.
Sergeant, I don't even want to butcher your last name, Sergeant. So Adam Townsend said, we treated our Bill of Rights for a term of service.
Ooh.
Very well said.
Well, absolutely.
Okay, I don't think they could hear
They can't hear me, or they can't hear you.
Turn it up, they said.
You gotta sit on that side. That's why. You're on the right. It's a figure eight.
Yes, I got
It's
you.
meant for like if you're interviewing somebody across from you.
I know. I can't wait for my mic.
It's right there.
It's coming.
We just haven't figured it out yet.
It's coming today.
It's just haven't figured it all. We'll get it. Got it.
All right. Lady Bell said, did you see my comment about Nancy wanting Joe to give nuclear codes for her and Kamala?
I didn't.
That's interesting.
I didn't. No, I didn't see that.
Glenn Schumer said, boomers, my generation, were either asleep, me until a few years ago,
Yeah, a lot.
or active in the Marxist long march of taking over the culture. And Lemon Minty said schools were always paid by how many kids were sitting in their seats. She was wondering, what are they doing now? How are they justifying that? I guess how many logins?
Yeah.
Oh,
I don't know.
that's a great
It's
question.
a good question, though.
Yeah.
We'll look into it.
Yeah, we'll do so. John Allen, did the Obama presidency make us a full-blown banana republic?
Yes. Yeah. I mean, in truth, we have a sad, long 20th century, especially history of democratic administrations that abused the hell out of their authority. The Gulf of Tonkin was a lie. Mm-hmm. All right. Kennedy was like, he's praised, but he was in over his head. The best and the brightest were basically the most overstated. I mean, I don't know what a more appropriate term would be for them. But FDR repeatedly abused his power, including his new taxation power, because he used that new agency to attack his political enemies all the time. But there was a line. There was a line. And Obama crossed that line because what happened under Obama is that the agencies themselves became ideologically corrupt. Now, is it always the case that Democrats or liberals dominated bureaucracies? For the most part, yeah. But under Obama, also, too, what made us more a banana republic was the purging of the military, the way he did, the liberalization of the military. He made it not a fighting force anymore, but another institution for social justice warrior activism crap. The brass was always hated by the enlisted, but now they are able to implement a culture that's like un-U.S. Army. I don't know how to put it. Because if you served when I served, it was very different army. But Barack Obama made it okay to do this stuff and with the help of the media, because normally the media would still be that watchdog and say, you know what? It's not all right to use the IRS to persecute your political opponents. But because it was Barack Obama, and let's be real and let's be serious here, it's because he was the first black president. They allowed him to get away with everything. Nobody wanted the first black president to be a disgrace. I'm just talking truth here, folks, all right? And the Republicans, they had a hand in it too, because they were so cowardly that they allowed it to happen as well. The media would never allow Republican administration to bug their reporters, like Barack Obama did to the AP, to the Associated Press, like they did to Shaul Atkinson, and CBS didn't even care, right? Reuters, their employee was vaporized by a drone strike that they lied about afterwards. They just abdicated all duty to their professions in the name of virtue, the ultimate virtue signal, which is the first black president could do no wrong. We must protect him at all cost. So it didn't matter what he did. Abuse the IRS. And really, the order never had to come from him, because the banana republic culture was top down. It's all right. It's okay. And if you, for like the previous commenter said about this boomer generation, that was the goal of the left-wing boomer generation, to get a hold of these institutions so they could use their power against everyone. That was the purpose. It's not an abuse to them. It's not an abuse of authority. It's a revolution. One they really feel like they've already won. And in many ways, they have won. It's just like any other power, you have to maintain it. So if you oppose it, it's not only is it not where you shouldn't give up, you should never give up. Because power is always temporary. There is no emperor who maintained ultimate power. There is no dynasty who was ever able to hold on forever. There was no form of government that was able to succeed forever. Rome, they came close. They tried. 1,000-year reign. And it failed. In the end, it failed because power is always temporary. Always. But yeah, under Obama, that's really when it all started to go to pot. It really did. The FBI, Laura. Yes. I don't want to get into it. I'm not going to blow up people. But under Barack Obama, the FBI became deeply, deeply corrupt. The whole Justice Department, the whole floor at Main Justice, totally corrupt.
All right. Corliss wants to know, can Rich go over small business startup explosion that Gene Marks talked about last Friday? I don't know who Gene Marks is.
I don't know who that is. I mean, there's a lot of SBA data on how successful the PPP was, but the small business startup numbers, there's a census thing too, small business formations. That is a relative number. So year over year, it's not fantastic. They're probably referring to the month over month. Well, when you're in the doldrums and you do decent and it's reported as, I think, an 8% increase, then that, I mean, sometimes you have nowhere to go but up when you're in the bottom. It still doesn't mean the overall picture is good. I don't know if that's, I don't know for sure, but they must be talking about that small business formation number. And by the way, a lot of that is skewed anyway, because those are businesses that really hadn't restarted. They received PPP, hung on, and hadn't had payroll, for a while. So when that does happen,
Fudging the numbers
being called new formations, it's not accurate. They're people who are desperately trying to hold on. I don't know that. I'm not familiar with that person's commentary, but they must be talking about that because
Governor, I always mess this up, Pritzker has a Republican challenger, State Senator Darren Bailey.
I saw that.
Lady Bella's very excited.
Oh, I saw that. And I also saw, for you Kinzinger haters out there, Laura, I didn't show you her video yet, but damn, the audio doesn't work. I could play it right now. I got it.
No, you have to load it to the stream.
Yeah, I'd have to actually upload it, which I can do. And during the next question, because we got 10 minutes, I can actually do it. I saw Pritzker's got one. There are a lot of these other... Before I make any praising comments about these people, though, I want to see who's behind their campaigns, because I have seen far too many campaigns just be destroyed by the people that are around them. They sound great. They come out swinging. Everybody's America first. They're not vetted properly, and they also let in people. It's the model of the establishment. They do that. They actually, put their advisors in these campaigns and give them bad advice and destroy them. It's reality. I will show you her video. We'll have time to play it, all right? Kinzinger. I saw that. We'll see, though, before I praise any of these people, because some of them I really do like.
Yes.
I want to see who surrounds them. I like John James, for the most part. I thought he was a strong candidate for the most part. I just don't think his campaign ever got off on the right foot. Okay? But by the way, I just have to say, because I know some of the people in his campaign from last time, they were a big improvement from 18.
All right. M. Holla, GOP has to stop apologizing. Why did Cruz apologize for going to Cancun? I don't think that was an apt time to go, honestly, because I would have criticized, me personally, I would have criticized Barack Obama if he did that. Like when he went golfing. You remember? I was a big critic of him.
Yeah, I think though that was a way to distract us all from Andrew Cuomo killing people in nursing homes. I mean,
Of course it was.
yeah. I mean, the bottom line is
But he
he
did not
had that
choose a good
vacation. Yeah, but he did have it planned beforehand. He really did. And I'm not really sure that it was. I know what you're saying. I do. But I
Not
just
during
don't.
that time.
I just don't think that there was anything he could have done anyway, Laura. You know, I think people are making too much out
No,
of
he
it.
couldn't have, and I get that. But
really
mean,
do.
like, if you want to resonate with the people, you need to suffer with your people. That's
I get that.
That's how I am. You
And
know
I would have
that.
returned immediately, probably. I would have if it was
He
me.
did apologize, but still.
If it was me, I would have returned. I mean, I think that's pretty obvious. But he didn't, and I still don't think Republicans should be attacking Ted Cruz, or conservatives or anyone who is anti-Democrat. Do not let them distract you. I get Jack. I love Jack.
Yeah.
Jack's my boy. I love Jack.
I love Jack. We all love Jack.
But I'm like, don't take your eye off the prize, Jack. Don't take your eye off the
Cuomo.
prize.
It's Cuomo.
Yeah. I mean, they're doing that because they're responsible for the deaths of thousands and thousands of old people, and they're trying to make us forget about that right now. And we just can't. We can't. Let's see if I can get this to play. Let's look at this Kinzinger person. All right. And I know, Catalina, I'm not trying to mess with you on your name. All right. But before I play this, I would say that if I did this video, I would have chopped the corny intro. All right. And Dittmer does this too. Talks about all this, and unity, and we're a union to preserve the union. It's not 1865 anymore, and most Americans don't give a damn about any of that stuff. That's red meat for the base. Americans want to know how you're going to make their lives better. Mm-hmm. So keep. I love the founders. I admire the hell out of them, but nobody cares.
But there's a way of doing things, and there's a way that
Laura likes that stuff. That's red meat.
No. I said, okay, I critiqued it properly.
She did.
I tweaked it, and I was like, this
It's
is
true.
how it should be done.
But go ahead. There's a way to do it.
Oh, well, I thought you were pressing play. That's
I'm
why
gonna
I
wait.
shut up.
I'm gonna wait for you.
I was just saying, there's a way to go about with resonating with the base, and then also resonating with your Trumplicans at the same time. So it's like, if you're a man or a woman of spine, like, you don't have to tell them about back in 1800s how your great grandpappy loved the Constitution.
Right.
You could just quick, succinct,
And she does. You'll see. She does. But I chose this one for, well, really, the main reason is I told you there's two ways the Republican Party can go. That involves a lot. But if the Republican Party does not embrace the Trump working class message, the America First message, they will lose the gains they've made, not just with white working class. They need a more diverse, racially diverse working class. If they keep with the Trump movement, they will get that. And by the way, working class Hispanics are the fastest growing demographic groups. So in the long term, if you can lock this group, you're going to stomp Democrats in the 10-year window. I mean, they just don't have enough white graduate degrees to keep them going. All right?
Let's go, Latinos.
All right, so this particular candidate, I think, could be extremely dangerous as long as she has the right people around her. But she could be extremely dangerous because she makes it clear if she was to beat the white neocon idiot like Adam Kinzinger, it would make it very clear to these new voters that Trump attracted, don't abandon us yet. All right? So let's just play that way.
I'm a firm believer in the American motto, united we stand, divided we fall. And we need to be united now more than ever. I never thought I'd primary a fellow Republican, but is Congressman Adam Kinzinger really a Republican anymore? He isn't, and we have the proof. The reality is, a majority of our party is united around the America First movement. My name is Catalina Lauf, and this is Adam Kinzinger, a weak-kneed establishment Republican who cares more about his next MSNBC appearance than the voters who elected him. Not grounded in our home of Illinois. He looks for fame instead of remembering who he works for and the voters who elected him. This is a reality for Adam. 1 out of every 3 votes he casts in Congress is with Nancy Pelosi. Instead of focusing on what really matters, instead of being in our fight, Adam betrayed his constituents for a life in the DC swamp. Kinzinger is one of 10 Republicans who voted with Democrats to move forward with a phony impeachment hoax for a president who has already left office. He said impeachment was necessary to save America. What? You know what I think is necessary to save America, Adam? Setting term limits to get people like you and the rest of your friends out. 6 terms in Congress is enough. During a time when the division in America is already out of control, people like Adam Kinzinger further fan flames by dividing our party. Social media censorship, election integrity, freedom of speech, gun rights, illegal immigration, keeping the economy going. These are issues regular Americans like you and I care about in our country right now. Weak Republicans are the reason why the Democratic Party is turning our country into their socialist utopia right before our eyes, and they're getting away with it. I'm here to draw a hard line. No more voting for politicians who neglect we the people after they move to Washington to play with the big guys. I know where I came from. I'm the daughter of a legal immigrant who moved to Illinois to pursue the American dream and a small business owner. That's why I love this country, and it's why I'm not afraid to fight for it. It gave my family opportunity, and I want to make sure your children and your grandchildren have a shot at the American dream too. That's why we must preserve what makes America great. I'm Catalina Lauf, and I'm challenging.
And I don't need to go with I approve this message nonsense, all right? And again, wait to see who surround these people before you make a decision. We're talking about messaging here, okay? What I'm saying is, did you hear what I'm saying about the first part? That was like the very corny, and I'm not going to name any firms, but I could probably guess the firm that did that video. Mm-hmm. All right? Which I don't like. I don't like this firm.
Yes.
All right? And they have been making money off of losing candidates for a long time. And the one I'm thinking in mind, anyway, if I'm right about who it is. And they've been putting forward... what's the word I'm looking for? Fake alternatives. You know what I mean? Where in the end, they'll just turn out to be like a Ben Sasse anyway. You don't forget, folks, Ben Sasse was the alternative to the Republican establishment candidate in Kansas. In Nebraska, sorry. And in the end, how did he turn out? So, you know, I can recognize most people's work because when you're in this business this long, they have signatures. Yeah, that opening could have been cut. She could have gotten right into the platform in 3 minutes, 30 seconds. You know, yeah, the hands thing. Well, come on, you're Hispanic. You know where that comes from.
Even being Hispanic, she over dramatized.
But no matter what you do, that length of a video is going to over dramatic. There's just not much more you can do with your hands for 3 minutes and 30 seconds.
And that's why it needs to be shorter.
It needs to be shorter. Mm-hmm. And you could have said everything about the platform, election integrity, all of that mattered. Tell the story about how you're a daughter of legal immigrants who want to preserve that for other generations. You could do that. And all of the things about Adam Kinzinger, the base knows Adam Kinzinger is a fraud. What they need to know is that you're not. You understand what I'm saying? And she could be dangerous. If number one, if she's legit, and number two, if she has the right, not just message, but it's a strategy on how you convey that message to other people. Okay? And that remains to be seen, is where I'm going with that. So reserve your judgment. I'm simply saying, though, this is the kind of candidate Republicans. I don't know if she is what she's trying to make herself be, right? But that what she's trying to make herself be is the right way, or at least a step in the right direction. Okay. Now, what we don't need is a million different primary challenges to Adam Kinzinger that ultimately will kill any real hope of defeating him. Because that is the playbook. Do not forget this. That is the playbook of the Republican Party establishment. They will quietly promote candidates that aren't really alternatives. And they don't mind. Because they'll split the vote. Okay? All right, so hopefully that...
You know, Lemon Minty, I like your comment because I'm a firm believer in this too. I'm tired of seeing Republican women and representatives or people that are running constantly in like tight-fitted skirts to fit the narrative of femininity and sex appeal. Like, she's selling sex appeal over standards.
You think it was too sexy? Is that what you're saying?
Even Kim Klacik, I liked her commercial. Her advertisement. It was bad, but arse. She was tough. She showed strength. But like, why does she have to be in a form fitted to her whole entire body?
I think there's a reason for that. You want to know what I think it is? I think
women
Fox
should be in
News did it.
and men should be in pants.
I think that, look, at the audience who watches Fox News, I think Roger Ailes was kind of brilliant to have a lot of pretty women in form-fitted dresses with their showing their legs. And I do. And I think Republican men, appreciate that kind of woman, but you know this, and I know this. But you can be
feminine in a suit too.
You can roll around in Republican circles, Republican donor circles, and younger, middle-aged, even pretty women, and they're not always dressed like that. But I think they're trying to convey some sort of an appeal because Democrats have a lock on the
Listen, I'm not talking about Hillary Clinton's
fashion world.
Suit.
No,
Okay.
Democrats have a lock on like the fashion world, and I think what they're trying to portray is that they're a attractive, strong woman who also has similar fashion tastes, and
That's
I
not
think
fashionable. That's
I
just
think that's what they're doing. Yeah, but it's modern. It's modern. It's modern for women to show off if they have it to show off. It's modern
Actually,
to do
I think
that.
That's actually dated.
No, I'm saying your own personal view, but this is how people dress. It is. I mean, that's what's cool. That's what unfortunately a lot of people look up to. I'm a man, so I don't know. I'm like really trying to walk a line here.
I know, but let's take
it's
it
attractive
this way.
to men. And it's also women aspiring to women. Hollywood has recognized that for years.
But how about
and
this?
they've sold it. Roger Ailes recognized it. And he sold it. Be careful, please.
No, what strong woman do you know that was ever elected for president in the United States?
Well, none.
None, right? Now let's look at...
But even Kamala Harris sold her frame when she was younger, Laura.
Oh, yeah, I'm sure. But what strong woman was elected in Britain,
as a public image, I mean.
As a public image, as PM.
Margaret Thatcher.
And
I
guess
know where
what
you're
Margaret
going with
Thatcher wore?
I know.
All right?
I
She
get.
didn't wear.
She wore form-fitted dresses,
she
but
would
they
wear
weren't.
skirts.
They weren't revealing.
But she also wore suits.
Yeah, she wore suit dresses a lot, like well done, nice suit dresses a lot. They just weren't revealing. That's the difference. They weren't in the American model of, again, it's very much
I'm just putting
a thing
out there.
in media. People understand the Fox News look, okay? And I'm just saying, it has worked. So that's why people do it.
Maybe it's not working for women anymore. Because women like
maybe
women like Lemon, and you should see the women that are on here. You want a strong
So what's the
woman?
consensus from the women in the chat?
For all my ladies out there, should women constantly be wearing tight dresses, or can we wear some power suits, not Hillary Clinton suits,
right?
Power suits where you can show femininity, but you could also show your brain is more important than how you look.
I get that. I get that. So maybe not for the intro video is what you're...
Yeah.
Here is what I would do, personally. If I was hired to do her video, I would have put her in 3 different outfits. I would have put her... So as she's talking in front of that white screen, it's changing. Okay? And I would have put her in the Fox News dress. I would have. Absolutely. That is for some people. Yeah, not me. But I also would have put her in the power suit.
Yes.
And I also would have made her look like a regular suburban woman. And the 3 would have rotated throughout the entire thing. So that stinks because when you have a client do that, what they have to do, folks, is do the same speech 3 times, right? So she would have to do the speech the way she did it here, and then she would have to do it again, and we would and we would have her do it again in the power suit or whatever it is, and then later the editor goes through and takes which cut he thinks is best, or
From
she
each.
or they, sometimes a team, from each, and they piece them together to make it free flow correctly. And then that's what I would have done, you know? So there you have it. All right, so with that...
That was a great political answer. You should run for office.
What?
Yeah, I like it, because you kind of soothe everybody's needs all in one. Look at you.
Well,
President Rich Barris.
Well, that's... No! Never. All right, it's 1:05 already. Wow, do we have...
Oh, real quick question.
Yeah, let's get one more. I think I might have hit the thing. I'm getting a lot.
No. Somebody wants to know if you're going to CPAC.
I don't know yet. I do this like almost every year now, right, Laura? The years, and I don't go every year. I mean, I do this decision-making process every year. And in most cases, the answer is no. But this time, I may go just to watch Trump and to see the feedback that he gets, because I saw him in his last one, and I saw him in his 2015 one, which he used to launch. And it's openly being billed. He will say, from what I hear, he will basically all but say that he's the presumptive 2024 Republican nominee. All right, so I don't know that he's there yet, guys. I really don't. I don't know the president like that, so I can't pretend to be in his head. I can just tell you what I hear from people. And I'm not sure he's there yet, but it would make sense for him to say that anyway. Because if your short-term goal is taking control of the party and basically reshaping it, rebranding it into your party, and fighting off the Mitch McConnells and the John Thunes and the Tim Scotts and down the Nikki Haley's, then you have to do that. And it would give you more weight if you said, I'm coming back, or I just may come back. You don't even have to say it and declare it. You can tease it, and it will instantaneously give you more power. Even Mitt Romney admitted he'll crush anybody if he runs in 2024. Even Mitt Romney. Did you guys see that?
Clock is right.
Even Mitt Romney said nobody can beat Donald Trump in 2024. And as it stands right now, nobody has a chance to beat Donald Trump. He would win. He would win the Republican nomination. I'm not sure that's the right move. I don't know. It's his life. It's his decision. He'd have to make that decision. All right. So with that in mind, I don't know, but I will let you guys know ASAP whether or not I'm going. Big mistake to not do what Charlie did. And I'm not saying this to self-promote myself, but Charlie Kirk had me, Matt Brainerd, and Kyle Becker do a panel on election integrity. And anybody else that you may have to speak on that has no credibility. Because, especially with Matt and I too, we did these investigations. We were in the Navarro report. We gave all of our data to anybody who asked, except for PolitiFact, who I told to pound, because they weren't interested in the truth. So I don't know who else has credibility outside of that panel that Charlie Kirk had, because we're the only one who did the work, the hard work, right? Well, you know what? Maybe like a Philip Klein. He has that group too, who did some work, but for the most part, that's it. And that goes to show you, really, that's telling where's their priorities lay. Election integrity has to come first. Everything else is basically secondary. Walk and chew gum at the same time, but if you let them make this permanent, there'll be third world elections in this country for years to come.
And it's simple as this, people. You need to be vigilant. Everybody keeps asking the same question. How do we stop this? It starts with you.
Yeah, you got to get involved.
If you do not get involved, you will just watch it happen.
I get field emails every day. People want to run to be the supervisor of elections if it's not an appointed position, which most of the time not, right? There's tons of precinct party slots that are open. I mean, this party, known as the Republican Party, has a ton of open areas that nobody takes. The establishment has relied on that for years. They really have. And by the way, those people have a lot more power than you think. If you have any background as an educator, then get involved in your, you can't be a superintendent overnight, but you can sure be a check on them. Get involved in your school board. I mean, there's a lot of power in the everyday, day-to-day lives. If you learn any lesson from 2020, it's that it doesn't only matter who votes. Who counts the votes also matters.
Get involved in the teachers' union if you can.
Yeah, I mean,
just be incognito about it, and then how do you think they did it?
Got
they
in
were
all the institutions
as mice.
And then corrupted them from the inside.
From inside out, little by little, people.
Yeah. Even
use their own tactics against them.
Gorbachev knew he couldn't take down the Communist Party from outside, from running as a reformer and being outside. So he did it from inside. Perestroika was a suicide. He made sure the USSR, while Reagan did his thing, committed national suicide as a party, because he knew they wouldn't be able to take those kinds of reforms from within. So it works. People do it because it works. All right. With that in mind, Laura, I guess we will roll out with Big Bad Habit.
All right, we love you.
And we will see you tomorrow. We appreciate all of you. Do not forget to subscribe to the YouTube channel if you're watching on YouTube, and hit that notification bell. That will let you know when we're going to go live. For everyone on Periscope who gave hearts, thank you so much. We love you for it. And on Facebook, hit the like button on the page for People's Pundit Daily. And that will also automatically tell you when you're going to go live. We send out all these invites all the time. Everybody's watching. And then I have to go back and look and then invite everybody. All right? So if you're listening from Facebook and you're watching on Facebook, like the page, People's Pundit Daily. All right, what else am I missing? Anything? Gitmo Life.
Us. Yes.
At People's Pundit and at Laura Barris on Gitmo Life. We have Gitmo.life. We have not returned to Parler yet, for the most part, although I may, but I am uncomfortable with some of the things I've been hearing about the changes they have made, and I want to learn more before I tell anybody to go on that site. And, if you're following me, then I'm promoting the site. So until I know your data is secure, then we won't be doing that. All right? All right, with that, I'm out like trout on a fishing route. See you tomorrow. All right? And
bye, guys. Not tomorrow.
Locals people, you'll see me soon. And,
because we're practicing.
And Inside the Numbers is 11 a.m. on Friday. Technically, 11 a.m. on Friday. Eastern Standard Time. Thanks for watching Inside the Numbers, folks. See you soon.
How much you wanna bet that I can get you back inside your head before the summer ends, and spread a little love. Just for a little fun, I'll make you come back to me before the rise of every sun. Baby, it's meant to be. I know you got a man, but he don't understand. You're gonna be a heartbreaker. You're such a love taker. So just suck me in and you can talk like a cigarette. 'Cause I just wanna be a bad habit, yeah. There's rhythm in our love, it's impressive, excessive. You can't make this stuff up. My chest beats, it's restless, wakes the neighbors up above. Yeah, baby, come and show me love. Baby, come and show me love. Because you're gonna be a heartbreaker. You're such a love taker. So just suck me in and you can toss me like a cigarette. 'Cause I just wanna be a bad habit, yeah.
We can get on a plane and take a one-way ride. Steal us away to find a place we can hide. It wouldn't take much to spear for a night, just to give in to the need and leave it all behind.
Cause I know that you know that I know that you want me. You told me, now show me, come blow me away. Cause I know that you know that I know that you want me. You told